Welcome to the Radical Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Generation to Generation, where you'll be inspired by the past, equipped for the present, and prepared for the future as we engage in conversations with people from around the world. If you've been inspired by the guests that we've had on the podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, hit notification bells, whatever you can do on the platforms that you're listening on, so that more people have the opportunity of hearing these and engaging in our community. Hello everyone, this is Andrew and Daphne from Generation to Generation, and our guest today is Marcus Cordeiro. Marcus, for people that don't know who you are, could you just say a bit about where you're from and what you do?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Marcos Cordeiro, as Andrew said, and I'm here from Brazil, more specifically from the Amazon, small city called Santarém, and we have been working here for a while as a missionary. My parents have been missionary from a long time, and we're following their footsteps and continue to serve God, and we're pleased to do that.
And then for people that hear this, they want to find out more about you, what you're doing, where can they do that?
Yeah, so we serve along with Past Church, Past Ministry, more known as Paz International, and we work more specifically in the Amazon and the rivers with the small river villages and taking the gospel to those more distant villages and making sure that they have opportunity to hear about Jesus as well. And we have been doing this for over 45 years. My parents have been doing this, and I'm now turning 40 years old this year. So since as a kid, I've been following them along and learning and inheriting that same legacy. And for us, it's a pleasure to be able to serve God and to continue this legacy as a missionary and doing what they have done for their whole life. So that's where we've been, and that's what we're going to continue to be, and that's what I'm training my kids to do, passing on to generations what we've been passed on to.
Well, for people listening, I'll put that website in the description, so it's there ready for you to go and listen to. I know we always love coming to you guys, being in the Amazon region, being in Santarém, visiting tribal communities. It's one of our favourite places to go to. And obviously there's the added bonus of being able to get to see you as well.
So there's a lot of questions I want to ask about what you've just said, but let's take it back a bit. Where did you grow up? What was your life like growing up? Did you grow up in the Amazon? Did you grow up with your father doing what? Talk to us about your childhood.
Yeah, I grew up in the Amazon. I was pretty much born almost in a boat. My mom just came to the hospital just to deliver us, but the whole pregnancy was all inside of boats and different villages. My parents, since 76, that's when they came. My father came to the Amazon with Luke Huber to start what we now call Past Church. His calling was always to the rivers, so ministering to different villages. Within 2 or 3 years after he came to Santarém, to the Amazon part of Brazil, he met my mom here, his wife, and so the whole time that he's been here in the north of Brazil, in the Amazon, was always working with the villages. So when I was born in that context of the ministry on the rivers. So a few times we were in the city, maybe my father planted about 2 or 3 churches in the city, which always took between 1.5 to 2 years period of time for him to start a church in the city and then train someone, and then he would launch himself again back on the rivers. So my whole childhood was always around boats, always around river villages, and I grew up seeing them as pastors in missions on that setting of river villages or forests. So for me, this was normal. There was the environment that I grew around, so for me, was the most special thing was seeing them ministering to river village people and to the most simple people, and they were able to really impregnate that in ourselves, in me, my sister, my brother, that there was nothing more precious than to be a missionary, and especially working with the river villages of Brazil that My father always says that we have an Africa within Brazil, which is called the Amazon. So they always share that with us as kids, and they made it to sound so precious and so important that for us to become missionaries as they were would be the highest goal of our lives. There was a phrase that my parents always shared with us, me and my siblings. They would say, when you grow up, if you can't be a missionary, then at least be the next president of Brazil. He would always tell that to myself or to my brother, my sister. So to us as kids, it was almost as the same as saying, you know, if you want to be the next superhero, be a missionary. So that really impacted me. And I wanted to do that because that was the highest thing someone could do. And I wanted to become a missionary. So that was my childhood. I was always around people, always around new church plantings, rivers, boats, forests. That was my whole childhood.
Wow. You mentioned a name in passing there. You came with Luke Huber.
Yeah.
Can you just briefly tell us about him? This is your story, but we'll just take a short diversion.
Yes. So Luke Huber, he was a missionary that came from America, early 70s with his parents, Melvin and Catherine Huber. And they went at first to the south of Brazil. And then they started a church there. His father started a church in the south of Brazil. And then in 76, Luke Huber really felt the desire to go to the Amazon to spread that church, to start new churches in the Amazon. He saw as a very it's still an unreached place, which still is. It's still a lot to do, but back then it was way more unreached. So he had that passion, and he started recruiting young people, young men that would go with him. So he was recently married. I think he just had his two first boys. I mean, actually, his two first girls, and then he had my father as a friend that lived close to where they lived. And he started training my father back in the South and then discipling him. And then he invited my father to come along with him to start this new mission frontier in the Amazon. So my father had just read a book called The Missionary of the Forest. It's a book about 5 missionaries that launched themselves into the Amazon, Ecuador, and how they planted a new ministry there and how they gave their lives for Jesus. And my father was impacted by that book, and his dream was to become a missionary too. So when this opportunity came, he was really excited about it. And Luke Huber was a reference for him as a man of God, someone really passionate for God. And he saw this opportunity to be able to become a missionary too. So if I can continue here, he went and talked to his parents, to my father's parents. And my dad did talk to his parents, and he said, Dad, I got this invitation to go to the Amazon. His parents already knew who Luke Huber was, and he said, I would like to go with him to the Amazon. I see this is the opportunity of my life to go and be part of something new. And my grandfather, they were very poor, very simple. He said, Newton is my father. They said, Newton, we don't have any finances to send you. We don't have anybody that we know down there to receive you. And there's nothing we could offer you. My father was 17 back then. He was still going to school. And he said, I really would love to send you, but we don't have means to send you or anyway. So I think it's better for you to stay. And my father, he was down, he was sad about it, but he decided to obey. And in the house that my father lived with his parents was just one big room, just divided by curtains. So my grandmother, she was in the kitchen, just next to the room where they were speaking, my father and my grandfather. And she overheard the conversation that my dad had with his father. So after my dad left, she went to my grandfather. He said, her name was Antonio. And she said, Antonio, I heard what you were talking with Newton about his desire to go to the Amazon with Luke. And I heard you and I understood you. She said, but you remember that when we first got married many, many years ago, you shared with me that your desire was to become a missionary and if possible to go to Africa. That was your dream. And then they talked, and he said, yes, I remember that. It was not possible. And then she said, yes, God is giving you a new opportunity now. If you couldn't go to be a missionary as your dream was, God is giving you an opportunity to send your son. She said, I know you don't have money. I know you don't have anyone that we know there, but God's giving you an opportunity. Let him go. And then they talked, and I called my father back, said, Newton, I talked to your mother, and we changed our mind. We're going to let you go. We're going to trust God. We don't have anything to give you. I mean, the only thing they gave him was a pair of shoes. And then a couple months later, then him and Luke Huber were packing up to go, and other 4 young guys, and moving to the Amazon in a truck. And that was how my dad ended up being here, and that's how Luke Huber got involved in my father's life. And since then, they became like father and son. And Luke Huber continued to be my dad's discipler. And they came, and now my father is part of this huge thing that we have now here, this big work called Past Church, Past International Past Church, and it's in many parts of the world now.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your dad was inspired by the missionaries that went to Ecuador, to Nate Saint, Jim Elliott, and the rest of those guys. That's really interesting. You said that you were raised believing that even being the president of Brazil would be a step down from being a missionary. But along your journey, you had a dream, a vision, your life was going in one direction. Can you talk a bit about that? And then how you then pivoted again, you kind of circled back around to the missionary calling.
Yes, of course. So, like I said, I grew up around this missionary life here, always helping my fathers, my parents in everything they did. And they were able to really put that in our hearts to continue that legacy. And I always wanted to be, I couldn't negotiate it with anyone. I always wanted to become a missionary as they were. That was my dream. But when I was 17 to 18, I had an opportunity, an invitation to go to Oregon, the U.S. There was a team that came and were traveling with us here in the Amazon, and they wanted to get to know the villages and the work and the ministry that was being done here. And they were traveling with our family on that year. And my father, he knew a little bit of English that he learned from Luke by living with him and being around him. So he would help the team, this American team, interpreting a few things here and there, but wasn't enough English to, let's say, interpret for a message or to do more. So the leader of that team from a vineyard church of Oregon, they as they were here in Brazil that year, they came to my parents and said, Newton, would you consider allowing your son to come with us and stay with us in the U.S. for a year in Oregon to learn English and come back as an interpreter for the teams that we were going to send down? So it was never in my heart to go to the U.S. Never had that dream. It just wasn't my passion, And as a young teenager, I was embarrassed. I never had that, desire to go. But the opportunity came exactly to me. So my father came and talked to me, and I said, well, I wanna do what you both think it's better for me, what's better for the ministry. I'm available. Well, long story short, I ended up going to Oregon, and at first to learn English and come back within a year. And as I moved to Oregon, halfway through the year learning English, the church there, they invited me to stay a little more, a few years more, and go to nursing school. The pastor's wife, she was one of the teachers of the university where I would go. So there would be tuition waiver, and there would be the facility. It would be easier to be able to get that degree in nursing. And also, I have to connect some points of the story here because my parents, while they were here in the Amazon, there was this American that came and taught them how to be dentists. They just taught them like some hands-on. They never went to school, but they came and taught them how to pull teeth, how to make dentures, and how to do all those things. So And they became really good because they would be going to the village and pulling out teeth and making dentures. And so they had so much practice that they got really good at that. And by doing that service, it opened many doors for them to plant many churches, lead many people to Christ. I mean, I can't even say how many churches they opened just by being able to go to a village and say, hey, we're dentists and we're here to help and would like to help you. So as a teenager, I would look at that and I would always think, well, if them being dentists really helped them as a missionary to, to open churches and to get all this done just by working with the mouth of a person, I thought to myself, well, how much more can I do if I became a doctor or a nurse and work with the whole body? So that was one of my dreams, was to become a doctor. At first was to become a doctor. And so when I was in Oregon, they asked me what my vision was, what my dreams were. So I shared that I wanted to become, if possible, work in the medical field, to come back to the Amazon and help my parents in the ministry and go farther. So they gave me this opportunity to go to nursing school. So when I saw the opportunity and I felt God leading that this was the door he was opening, so I said yes. I will do it. I talked to my parents. They blessed me to stay longer. Ended up staying for 8 years. At first it was 1 year. Ended up staying for 8 years in Oregon. Went to nursing school. It took me 4 years in nursing school, and then I had already stayed for 3 years learning, going to college and getting proficient in English enough to be able to get into university, and then did nursing school, and then I worked for 1 year as a nurse also. But when I completed 8 years, I really felt God very strong, telling me that it was time to return and to pursue the doctor's degree here in Brazil. So I came back to Brazil, to the Amazon, and then I started studying and getting ready to do medical school here in Brazil. And the opportunity came here too, where I had really good grades on my. Here in Brazil, you have to take many tests to get into medical school. My grades were really good. I was gonna get into medical school the following year, and I had two doors open. One was through my grades, and the other through a public school. And the other opportunity was I had this friend doctor from South Africa that came and visited us here with the Joyce Myers team, and he made me an offer. He said, keep trying to get into the public school through your tests. In case you don't get in, I'll pay your way through a private school. So I had those two doors open to get into medical school. So it was an open way to go in. And in 2010, that's when I returned to Brazil from Oregon, and I had those opportunities to continue into medical school. But then in 2011, halfway through 2012, I went on a trip with my father. I would always go, but this time I went in this specific trip to one of the villages that we were planting a new church. And then I was in the back of the boat, and I remember very strong. I felt God speaking to me. It wasn't a voice in my ear. It was something in my heart, but was that I really felt him talking to me. And what God told me was, would you be willing to give up your dreams to live my dreams? At first, I didn't understand. And I asked God, what more specifically you're talking about? And God started sharing, and making me understand that was the dream about going to medical school that he was talking about. And he said, would you be willing to give up what you want the most to do what I want the most? Then when it made sense to me, I said, God, I want to be in the center of your will. I want to do what you have for me, what's your dream for me. And he confirmed in many ways in that moment for me that he really wanted me to follow up into my dad's footsteps, to continue what the legacy he had been working for so many years, everything he had built up. And I remember that one of the pictures God used to help me understand was he said, what would be more wise if you're building a house? Would it be wise for you to build a house next to your parents, or to build one on top of their basement, to build a next house? And to me, that made sense, because he was talking about the ministry that my parents had already been working for so many years, and he had already built that inside of us. And I was dreaming about going to medical school and then being able to help on that sense. But God was really speaking to me that He wanted me to continue what they had already done. And something else that God told me was this: why would someone else inherit what your parents have built while he has sons and daughters inside of his own house that could carry on that legacy? So that was very clear to me, and I said, God, I want to do what you have for me. But I said, then you need to talk to my parents, because they have believed in us, invested in me all this time, and they are really dreaming with me becoming a doctor too. So you talk to them so that you understand this too, you know. So about a week later, I went and talked to my father. I said, Dad, I'm not going to go to medical school anymore. And he said, but why? What? Something wrong is happening? He said, no. He said, that doctor not going to help you anymore. I said, no, he's still available. Your grades are not good. He said, no, they're still good. And he said, so why you don't want to continue? And I said, I felt that talking to me, and I wanna do what you do. I want to continue what you have been doing. I want to be a missionary as you have been. And I thought my father was going to be sad or disappointed. When I lifted my head up and looked into his eye, he was crying. And he said, Marcos, I would always believe in what you dream. I would always support you on what you wanted to do. But God knows that our desire was to see our sons following up in what God had put in our family as a legacy. And I'm so pleased. And he started crying. And it was just an amazing moment for me. You know, I was in there, so for me it was very special. And I said, when can I start? He said, when do you want to start? I said, I'm ready. I'm not going to go back to school anymore. I'm giving up school. I'm giving up all my tests. I'm not going to pursue that anymore. And he said, you know this river we just came back from? I said, yes. He said, then that's going to be your first river. It was a river called Tapara. And he said, that river is going to be your beginning. So he gave me that river starting on that day. And that's where I planted my first church at a village called Santana do Tapara. And then there we planted another church called Boa Vista do Tapara. Then I met my wife, and then we got married, and we continued to plant more churches. And on that river, now we have 5 churches planted. And I already migrated to other rivers, and God has just taken us to so many places. Me and my wife have already been able to plant by ourselves at least 18 churches since we got married, and we are also helping to supervise many other churches along the way. So we feel so fortunate to be part of that, and how God connected those points, and how He brought me around, going to Oregon, coming back to what had already been planted in our hearts.
What was it like going from living and growing up in the Amazon and down the rivers to suddenly finding yourself in America?
It was kind of scary, you know. I was used to a jungle made up of trees, and now I was in a jungle made up of concrete. And everything was so different. I didn't know the language. I had no relatives there. I had never been there. I didn't know the culture. So for me, I went because I really felt that God was taking me there. And like I shared in the beginning, I didn't have that desire to go to America. I mean, many people dream of going to America. Oh, I want to go to the States. And this, my sister, she wanted to go. She really decided one day to go there. But I never had that desire. You know, I loved where I was. I loved Brazil. I came back to Brazil. And getting there for me was, at first, it was a challenge. But then God gave me many people there that helped me and helped me learn the language. But it was scary, you know.
I mean, you didn't even go somewhere like Florida where you could continue to hunt alligators.
No. All that we had, I mean, and the city I went to is called Grants Pass. It's a small town in Oregon. And I mean, that's as American as you can get. I mean, you didn't have any Brazilians around. It's just English. I walking on the streets, even the Spanish was hard to hear, you know, that would be close to Portuguese. So I was really in the miracle of an American language, culture, and everything. There was no way to come back, no way to turn around. You know?
So, Marcus, you got your dad saying to you, there are, that's your first river. I mean, if you said to me there, that's your first river, I would probably be thinking, to do what? What am I going to do with this river? So here you are, this is your first river. Take us through what happened next. What did you do in planting, and what do you do in planting your churches? Because it's easy to say, I planted a church, but what's the process you go through?
Right. Yeah. So I have already been working with my dad, helping him carrying his luggage, carrying the tools. I was always like that Elijah servant, always helping him carry things around, as he would be the front guy doing everything, and I would be helping him and my mom. And I had always been watching and helping, but I had never been in the front of it myself. So right now I was at a point where he was saying, now is your turn. Now you do it. You have watched me enough, and now you do it. So the process that we have to plant churches here, at first for me it was a challenge also, because I was always used to just help, and now I was the one being watched. And the process that we use here, that I have been watching him do, I did it exactly as he did. I tried to copy him as I remembered him doing. So as we go to plant a new church at a village here in the Amazon, maybe a little bit different from other countries, but here as we go out in the village, the first thing that we do is starting friendships, starting relationship with people. So we don't get there and go straight talking about Jesus. First, we have to, we always use a phrase, first we gain them to ourselves, and then we gain them to Jesus. So first we make of them really good friends of ours, and then we conquer their trust, and once they trust us and they allow us into their home, into their family circle, then they start noticing a difference in us also, because they see that there's something different about us, because we're not business people. We're not someone trying to sell them something. So why are you here? And then we start sharing Jesus with them. But now we're their friends. So at that point, then we ask the permission to share a little bit about God with them, the gospel. We start reading the Bible. We don't do anything we don't formalize it. We just slowly, as a friend, we start sharing God with them in a way that they just find themselves asking us questions, and we start answering the Bible, and then sharing experiences, and then from there, from that first family, we end up leading them to Jesus. From that first family, then we invite them to get together as a group. So we start a cell group, let's say, a very informal cell group. We just can come back next week and then get together again to read the Bible, or just talk and just be around, have lunch with you. And they look at us not as pastors, they look at us as friends. But yeah, come around. Next week we come, and then we're gonna get some fish. We can go fishing with us, and then we'll talk. Yeah, come back. So we come back, and then they have more questions, and then we share a little bit more, and then they invite their neighbors and their relatives, and then pretty soon you have 3-4 families, that give their lives to the Lord. And then we then start sharing with them. Well, we do this. We're part of this church, and then part of what we do is to do cell groups, and so we can have an opportunity to study the Bible together. And then we start explaining to them the process, and then we start training. Usually, the first person or a key man that God shows us within those first people that get saved, God usually shows to us who is the key person that's going to be worked with to become a future leader in that cell group. We never send let's say a leader from the city to become a leader there. No, we go, we lead them to Christ, and then we start making that cell group, and then we start meeting with them, and then we watch closely to the Holy Spirit to see who is going to point out to us that's going to be a key person that's going to be trained as a leader in that village. So then we start discipling that person, being more profound with them, and sharing God, sharing experience, answering their questions. And then pretty soon we give them little duties to do. So next week you're going to be praying for us to start. And then the week after, could you share a verse, and then share what you understand about it? And then we start putting them on the spot, And then pretty soon they're going to be able to, take the Bible and, explain what they understand. And soon enough, usually within 6 months, 8 months, the most a year, they're being able to give the whole message there, and then I share with their families. And then within a year or a year and a half, they do it all by themselves. They will lead the cell group. They're already evangelizing other people. And then we multiply that cell group. Then once we get, let's say, 15, 20 people, it's getting too big. At a village, usually the cell groups go up to be, let's say, 15, 20 people. And then it gets too big to be within someone's kitchen or someone's living room. Then we say, hey, what if we multiplied and we met at the same day here, but then these other, usually the first one moves out. Let's say if I started that cell group, then I leave the person that I trained there at that house, and then I go to the new place and start leading a new group. Then once we have 2 or 3 cell groups, then you say, hey, what if we started meeting under the mango tree for Sunday service, so we can have a chance to be together, all the groups. Instead of meeting all separated, we meet separated and each in a cell groups. But then on Sunday, we get together as a church. And they love the idea. And that's a new church.
Wow. It sounds, you make it sound easy, but I'm sure there are many challenges.
Yeah, he says, I'll just come. Yeah, we'll just pop down the street next week. No, it's like some of these are days on a boat to get there. So it's not like you can just nip down the road to meet with them.
So talk to us about some of the challenges of what you do.
Yeah, well, definitely many challenges. The first one is the distance, like Andrew said. Those villages, they go from hours to days away from a city. So here in the Amazon, we say, this river is my road. It's because to go to any village here, you have to take a boat to go out there. So you can't just ride a car there. You have to take a boat and go there. And our fastest boat here usually goes around 14 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure if in England you count as kilometers per hour or miles per hour.
Miles per hour.
Miles would be about, let's say, 6 miles per hour. That's our fastest boat. So you're traveling for 4 to 5 hours or a day or two, going at 6 miles per hour to get to that village. So the first barrier that we face is the distance. It's getting there. And once you get there, usually you know no one. So here in Brazil, our culture is a little different from other parts of the world. We're very relational people. So it's a little bit easier to make friends here in Brazil. People, if you just stop on the street, you just greet someone, they will answer, But going out in the village, since you don't know anyone, you just dock your boat at someone's port, and then can you give us some water or some banana, or can you sell us fish? We find a way to start a conversation. Some place people receive us really well. Some place people just turn us around and say, hey, And another barrier that we have also here is that for a long time, try to say this here, Catholicism was really impregnate here in Brazil. And in the Amazon, it's almost to all villages you go, most of the villages already have a Catholic church. They're not in all of them, but in a lot of them, most of them have Catholic churches. And most of them, those Catholic churches are not even functioning. It's a priest that came, built a church. They taught them some ideas of the Catholicism, and then they really hit strong on the keys to be watch out for the Protestants. They're going to come and they're going to try to deviate you from this way, and you don't listen to them. They really try to close the doors for when we come. So many times when we come to those villages, and then if we use the word and say we're Christians, we're believers, and I would like to share with you, the first thing they say to us, oh, I already have my religion. I don't need anything else. Go on to someone else. They lock us out. And many people will receive us, will hear us, but the Catholicism here has been a barrier for us. because many people are already vaccinated against, let's say, Christianity. So when you come to share them about the Bible, they just say, I already have my religion. My parents already taught me what I need to know. Please go on. So that's another barrier that we face many times, and most of these people are, how do I say this? They call themselves Catholics, but they don't go to church. They don't participate in any meeting. They never went to church, but because it was passed on to them that they were Catholics, and their parents always taught them that they should never go away from that way, and that people are going to come around as Protestant, as they call us, and they're going to try to teach you the wrong way. So stay away from them. Don't receive them in your house. So that becomes a barrier for us. So that's why we go through friendship. Many times we choose not to present ourselves as pastors or as missionaries. We just come and, we would like to get to know this village, and or like my parents did, they came as dentists. We're here as dentists and would like to pull some teeth for free here. Is there anybody that needs a tooth pulled? And once you start getting their attention, their friendship, and they trust you, they see that you're there to help them, then they open their house, and then they see that you're different, and they start asking you questions, and you go and start sharing Jesus with them. And then when they find out that you're a Christian, they say, oh, I never thought the Christians were like that. I thought they were here to deceive us and this and that. There was this whole image painted about us. They said, there's nothing to do with it, and that's when they receive us in their house, and they want to receive Jesus. And then you go through them, and you go to the whole family, and they take that opportunity to even share with their relatives and friends around, and then you end up leading many people in that village to Jesus.
So do you use your nursing?
I do. I still do. So I don't work in the city as a nurse, but I work as a nurse out on the villages. I don't set a clinic, a full-blown clinic, no. But as we go to the houses, I always, as my parents would come and say they were dentists, I say, I'm a nurse. Especially if I notice that someone's sick. I say, hey, I'm a nurse. Would you mind if I check your baby out? Or if I see that you got that wound, would you mind me checking it? And then once they find out there is a nurse in their house, oh, well, yeah, go ahead. But my mom is also sick, and can you go to my parents, my relative's house, and they take us around, and then that door is open. And my wife, she's a nurse also. You both had you were able to meet her, and my daughter is also. So that's for us is a huge tool that we use to go into the villages. We don't introduce ourselves usually as pastors. We just come say we're nurses, we're just friends, and as we see the opportunity, we just slide it in and go into their lives.
So you've got two small girls, beautiful girls.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with them when you're going down the boats and into the villages? I mean, do you leave them at home with your babysitters? What happens with your girls?
No, they're always with us. They're always with us. We had good teachers. My parents were our teachers, so everywhere they went as missionaries, they took us along with them. So we never stayed behind. Even if we were sick, they would always say, would rather have you sick close to us than staying away. Let's say the father going, the mother staying with the kids. No, they wanted to, whatever they presented to the people, let's say presenting Jesus as the healer. So first he has to be the healer in my house. So Jesus is going to heal you. Come on, you're going to go together with us. So we try to copy that. So Bella, my oldest, was 6 years old, and Melissa, my youngest, 2 years old. They are with us the whole time. In the big boat, the small boat, in the canoes, everywhere we go, they're always with us. And they love to do that. And for us, that's a teaching curve, is that we're able to teach them and to make them love the ministry, love missionary work, being there, loving people. And also, I do one thing that my parents always did to us. He made missionary work to be fun. So we would go out to the village, and on the way, he would stop somewhere. Let's go into the jungle here. Let's do this. Let's go hunting. Let's go fishing. As we were traveling for hours to get to a village, he would climb us up on top of the boat, and he would start telling us a story, and make that time fun, and go shower with us behind the boat, hang behind the boat, as the boat is traveling, just hold the bars behind the boat and just like body surf behind the boat. So he made the trips to be fun. So we would always look forward to go out because fun things happen. We would go to people's house, we would see animals, we would see different places, rivers, and this. So they created for us that to be missionaries was the best thing to do. So that's what I'm creating for my daughters also. As I take them swimming, I take them to the people's house, I put them to make friends with the kids from the family there, and they go play with the chickens, and they're always around. So as we're talking, they are right there with us. So that even helps us too, because they don't see us like as someone that is just on a job, that we left our kids at home and came to work with them. No, they see us as a family that came, and that we're normal. We have kids, we're here with them, and we face the same things they face, and so they can relate to us in a much easier way as they see our kids. My kids will eat the fish they eat. They'll eat the mandioca, farinha mirada. Mandioca is that this traditional food here. They'll swim with their kids, so it opens the door. So our kids are always with us. They love it. Their immune system gets really good because they're exposed of all kinds of mosquitoes and foods and dirt and everything. Yeah.
I know for us coming down the Amazon, as I said earlier, it's one of our favorite trips. We really enjoy it. It's quite the adventure. You never quite know what's going to happen. I know that we've been on the boats and storms have hit, and I've been in the hammock and my hammock's getting flung up against the roof, and I'm having to put my feet on the roof to stop me from hitting it, and going out alligator hunting or swimming with anacondas, whatever it is. But then also getting to meet the tribal communities is phenomenal. And for people listening, if you get the opportunity to do something like this, then I recommend they do it, to be able to go and have these kinds of experiences. For people listening, though, they think, I really like the sound of this. I'd love to, if there are ways that I can support, get involved, other ways that people can do that.
Yeah. The thing that we need the most here, as my father always say, presence is better than present. So our invitation is always for you to come and see it for yourself and come and be a part of it. And it's always very encouraging. Our whole leadership talks about this, and it's very true. It's always very encouraging when someone from other parts of the world or other cities come and go with us, because the people that we're ministering to, they see people from outside. They find out they have this bigger family, and they find out that there is more people that cares about them. So I'm just making the difference here. Let's say sometimes sending a gift or it's really good, but when you come and you're there with us and they see you, they hear you, they feel so much love. And I'm just one of the missionaries that are here. We have maybe hundreds of them ministering to hundreds of villages. And when they come and they see someone coming from outside, let's say from England and from anywhere else in the world, they find out we're not alone. There is more people that are believing in us. They are here to support us. They're here to encourage us. They're here to, they believe in what we're doing. So that is the best way, is coming and being present here, be it for a month, a week, a couple of days, a year, moving here, it's very good. And of course, there are other ways also through past church ministries. If you go on the site of Paz Mission, Paz International, they have a way of how you can support the ministry for sure. And there's lots of needs for transportations, supporting missionaries. We just went through the pandemics as the whole world went. So we take food bags out to the villages. We take medical supplies and the boats and fuel.
Maybe some faster boats. Maybe some faster boats.
Make it a faster boat. Yeah, that's true. So, but all that information can be found through the Paz website, Paz International Ministry. There's all the ways how to support the ministry for sure. And but I would love to see you coming here. You're always welcome. Daphne and Andrew and anyone else listening, you're more than welcome to come here and see us, come here and see the people and see what God is doing.
Sounds good. Thanks, Marcus. I know we love you and your family. We always love getting to see you whenever we can. Again, for people listening, the website information is all in the description box, so go there, check that out. Marcus, thank you. We really appreciate it. Always good to see your face.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me, and it's so good to know that we have so many brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers around the world that believe in all that we believe and that are here cheering us on. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this live, and I'm very, very pleased with this.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember, if it inspired you, share it with others so we can see more people engaged in this community.